I'm focused on the spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barton. Today, we're going to be talking about big news. Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name from consideration for the Attorney General. And, people are saying that, suspecting that it's all this allegation surrounding him and stuff. But in reality, he just probably didn't have the numbers, and that stuff, no doubtably, is a distraction. But there's lots of folks that don't like him or feel that he has a qualifications, experience, and stuff. And there's other people who can share Trump's vision and do needed reform to the, DOJ and stuff, but has just more on paper to make it kind of happen. So we'll talk about that. We'll also be watching this clip between Shank and from the Young Turks and this professor who has this 13 keys and was so sure that Kamala Harris was going to win the election. And they got into it, on Piers Morgan's show. I mentioned it yesterday, like at the tail end of the broadcast, and I said that we'd watch it together. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to watch it together. Also, The View came for Joe Rogan, specifically Joy, and and he just trolled them right back. So, or just, I'll just show you what he did. But you guys can't come for comedians like that. They're just not going to take you seriously and make a joke out of it or whatever. You're not gonna be able to take down the king of podcasting with dumb comments from dumb women on The View. Anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go blackteanews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteanews.com/donate. It does cost to stream and run my website, so if you guys can support, I very much appreciate it. The best way to support is, again, by the website. But if you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. Watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats, or you can do stickers or whatever if you're watching back later. I thank you to those who watch live and those of you who watch later. And if you comment and all that stuff, that does help support. You just sitting here in front of your phone or computer screen watching, that does support and help and stuff. So I thank you very much for all that you do and for taking your time out to make space for me. There's a lot of people talking about politics and stuff. And so I'm very flattered that so many of you, like my commentary. So I try to, live up to your expectations and rise and so on. So thank you guys. I very much appreciate it. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blackteanews.com. Like this cool, you're not the victim. I'm not the victim you're looking for. We got the black tea mug. We got the, the pumpkin spice mug, and I did draw that little chibi Trump myself. I did draw it myself. Also, we got the You Are Not That Special mug, which I'm very fond of that one too. And I have those last two mugs in t-shirts as well, so you guys can pick up that stuff. We also have pro-choice men are sus, because man, so many crazy things that pro-choice men say and push for nefarious reasons. I'm not saying all of them nefarious reasons, but sometimes it's to get out of responsibility. Like, for example, Mark Hamill, very pro-choice man, when his son knocked up somebody, he didn't care about the woman's choice too much, but he sure did want a dead baby. And they allegedly really pressured her. And the son was like, we're not going to give you no money. And, if you're trying to gold dig and stuff, just awful stuff. But there's more examples than that. But yeah, that's why I decided to make that shirt. Anyway, Let's hop to it. I did have an article that I dropped earlier today detailing a lot of things that we talked about. It's about 2,000 words, I think the article is, but it talks about how Kamala lost, why she lost, and why she's pretty much always doomed to lose and was going to lose basically from the moment that Joe Biden picked her to be the nominee, because they weren't ever going to pick someone else because they're enslaved to their hierarchy, oppression, Olympic stuff, and they couldn't just let a white person overtake her and replace her or whatever. Couldn't have been Shapiro, couldn't have been Whitmer or whatever, because she's a woman of color and that's just their ideology and stuff. And she was never a good candidate. She had bad policies. She was terrible at campaigning. And then the Biden administration itself just laid the groundwork for a really hard reelection with all the money they spent and inflation, and people just did not get over the fact that it's tough to buy groceries. My sister went in the store the other day and she bought toilet paper and detergent. Just toilet paper and detergent. And it was $20. And she's just talking about like, this detergent used to be this much and this detergent used to be that much. And I think I bought the toilet paper last time. I'm like, yeah, I know it's expensive. So people are hoping that prices go down. I don't know how much, they will or whatnot, but even energy prices going down, and if gas goes down, then things don't need to be as high. People don't understand like the cost for people driving to work, the cost of these companies having to transport their products to and fro. It's just killing folks. It's just killing folks. Do you know how much diesel and all this stuff was killing farmers and so on, like at the height of gas being like $5, $6? I can't believe we lived in a time when gas was that high. Like when it kept climbing, it was like near $4. I'm like, I can't believe it's $4. Oh my gosh. I never thought I would see gas at $4. And then it jumped to $5. And in California, I think it was like 7 or something. It was insane. It was insane. So anyway, they're lower obviously than they were, but they're not as low as during the Trump age, and people just didn't forget about that stuff. So anyway, that article is out. I encourage you guys to read it and share it around, because I can't believe that people are still so. I understand people being upset, but people are delusional. If people had a better grasp on why she lost, I think they would feel better about her loss, because just blaming it on racism and sexism and misogyny and all that stuff, instead of looking at all the facts. And no, Donald Trump was not a perfect candidate. He was the candidate the Democrats wanted to run against. And there are things that definitely weighed him down, but you know, she was still worse. She was still worse. Bottle of blue cheese dressing, $7. I do like blue cheese dressing. I have not bought any in a while. I think last time I bought blue cheese blue cheese is because I like wedge salads, and my sisters like laugh and think it's so weird when I'm like, I like a nice wedge salad, and they're like, why is that something like you brag about or you talk about? I'm like, a wedge salad is really good. It's when you just take the head of the lettuce and you like cut out a wedge and you put like bacon crumbles and blue cheese on it and dressing. And I've seen some people put some balsamic dressing on it too. And I like it. I think it's good. So, but it's probably like the last time I bought blue cheese. Anyway, but the kind that I bought wasn't very good. So I guess I had to probably get a better quality blue cheese because I didn't like the dressing too much. Anyway, let's move on. Check out the article. Make sure you guys drop your emails in the newsletter. I will not bombard you with emails. I promise you. I promise you. I do want to say this. Let's get the Matt Gaetz thing out of the way. So he dropped out and he said that basically a lot of stuff is becoming a distraction. And he met with different senators and had some positive conversations, but ultimately, guys, people were saying that the numbers weren't there. And there's some influencers that were like, no, we're going to push Matt through and these senators better vote for them, or we're going to primary people, blah, blah, blah. And you cannot just force people through. I see you, Anna, in the comments. Thank you for your appreciation of wedge salad. I'm going to put your comment on screen so my sisters can see it later. I like a good wedge salad. Anyway, I was reading that there were like 30 senators that were just like kind of no on Matt and stuff. And I talked to some people in the know and stuff, and they're like, "Do you think he's going to get in?" They're like, "No, absolutely not." And there were some people on the right, on different internet spaces on X and stuff that were just like, "He is not getting through." And people attacked them, and people said things like, "Oh, no, everybody has to go through. Everybody has to go through." Trump can find someone better than Matt Gaetz to lead the FBI. I understand he's a bulldog. I have enjoyed a lot of these clips that people have been posting. This is why they hate Matt Gaetz, and seeing him go after, different people in Congress and stuff. It's great. It's fantastic. Some of his monologues and grilling and stuff. Sure, and I'm sure Trump wants some of that energy. Especially how he fought against the Russia stuff, how he put the Hunter Biden laptop into the congressional record. Those are things that Trump's thinking about, as he wants someone to reform the DOJ and, get things in order, because Trump is the response that were some of his picks or what he's planning to do. There's going to be a lot of reform, and people don't like reform when they are very comfortable in their system. But this system screwed him over, and they screwed over America. And people can see it as personal, like, oh, this is personal vendetta about the Russia collusion hoax. The Russia collusion hoax was not just committed against Donald Trump. It was committed against America. It was committed against the American people. It was meant to undermine the sitting American president that the people voted into power, and for people to point and say, oh, he was installed by Russia. And it's so rich to hear Clapper or Brennan or Adam Schiff, all these people who pushed that stuff, who strung people along and give their 2 cents about Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz and stuff. I don't want to hear it. Even if they're not perfect candidates, even if I have issues with them, I want them to shut up and just go live under a rock somewhere, because you are why we don't have trust in our institutions. I think we ought to have trust in our institutions. It's too bad that we don't, and they don't deserve our trust. So there does need to be reform, because they have been living like tyrants against people that they don't like, who they don't share a good idea, the same ideology with. Like, people talk about the peaceful transfer of power, yet there wasn't some kind of massive riot like there was on January 6th, the day that Trump was elected, though there were riots, by the way, because people were busting out windows, someone set a limousine on fire, people were attacking people in line for the ball. I was there, okay? So people didn't just accept it, and people did recounts trying to see if they could overturn the results. People did, which was that silly and a waste of time. So that's what makes it the most annoying. People begged the electors to defy the will of the states and just vote for Hillary Clinton instead. So that's probably one of the craziest things that freaking happened in 2016, after Trump was elected and so on. But there were all these like inner plots to take Trump down after that. There was, they spied on his campaign. The Hillary camp started the Russia collusion thing, which Biden and Obama knew. You had the setup of the FBI of Michael Flynn, where they set him up to basically lie. I guess he didn't have to lie. You could always say that. He didn't have to lie, but they set him up. And when they sent people to interview him for that setup, they made sure to do it before he could get, White House counsel, which Comey said, it's a really green administration. I figured that they wouldn't, do things the proper way with the, the White House counsel. So they wanted to make sure that he'd be on the hook with his own lawyers and stuff. So they set him up. They did things to undermine the incoming president. Joe Biden even, floated around using the Logan Act, So the goal was to always undermine them so they could reinstall the former administration, basically, because Obama's vice president is currently the president of the United States. and they pushed the Russia stuff. They knew it was garbage. And then you have Jake Tapper and people like, well, we were just reporting on what happened. It was just nonsense after nonsense. And Adam Schiff to this day is still like, no, I did the right thing. He should not be over any kind of intelligence whatsoever. And I hope he gets trash committees for the rest of forever, which probably won't be the case, but hopefully be the case while Republicans are in charge. But it's just, these people should be shunned from society. Everyone who put their name on the Hunter Biden laptop letter saying, oh, this looks like Russian, disinformation, has all the earmarks of it. None of them should be heard from again. They should be too embarrassed to speak. And you know what? I think those kinds of letters that prove to be so stupid help to make more kind of letters. Like, all these economists said that Kamala Harris has a better plan for the economy. No one believes you. No one believes the hacks that you compiled on a letter to say X, Y, and Z. We lived through him. We're living through you now. We don't like you. And no letter on the planet's going to convince us otherwise. Because we know what our reality is like. And we know that you're a bunch of liars. Gosh. So there's a lot of people talking smiggity smack, and I just don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it from the opposition. Like, I understand they're upset and they're losing their way and they think there's going to be reform, and a lot of people are going to get fired, I'm sure. But you blew it. You have to accept the results of the election, and you have no credibility. There's people offering valid criticism, but I don't want to hear it from like Clapper and Brennan and folks like that. I do not. The medical community, the scientific community that silenced people, bullied people, pushed trash signs and stuff. I don't want to hear it. I'm so glad that Trump is considering one of the people who did the Great Barrington Declaration, to, I think maybe be over, it's not the CDC. I think it's another organization, but I'm like this. The Great Barrington Declaration makes sense to me. If you don't know what that is, I've mentioned a couple times before, but when COVID stuff was breaking out, there's all these scientists that got together and said, hey, we should have healthy people just kind of try to live out society, and we should protect our vulnerable, and we shouldn't shut down everything, and we're going to build up like a herd immunity and so on. And you had Collins and Francis Collins and Anthony Fauci shut that down because they didn't want life to resume. They wanted shutdowns and mandates and all that stuff, which it never made sense to me. It never made sense to me. And by the way, Fauci was asked about that kind of stuff prior to COVID. That's not the way that he would normally run a pandemic. But so there's something about the 2020 pandemic where we had to shut everything down, close people's businesses, make people go out of business, transfer a bunch of wealth to Bezos and other folks like that, shut down mom and pop shops, make it so that flower shops couldn't be open for Valentine's and Mother's Day and so on. I'll never forget a video of a man who owned a music store in Michigan just sobbing. And he said, it's not just like a closing of a store, it's a closing of a dream. I'll never forget the sounds of his sobs, and these people didn't care. I'll never forget times on YouTube when my stuff was censored or Facebook was censored because the stuff revolving COVID, and I didn't say anything that was contrary to the CDC, but it was close enough that they flipped out, and I had strikes on my channels. I couldn't stream for a week, and then another one happened. I couldn't stream for 2 weeks. It took 90 days or something to fall off. Don't be surprised when you get Kennedy charge of HHS when you've been pushing this crap. Don't be surprised. So there's valid criticisms for a lot of these people, but a lot of these folks, Ian and Han, you can shut all the way up. You can shut all the way up. Okay. Now back to Gaetz. He bowed out. He absolutely did not have the votes. And he probably within the meetings, because Trump was trying to whip votes, from my understanding from things that I read. And he was having his meetings, and he just probably realized that he wasn't going to get there, and either he decided to take himself out of the equation, or Trump decided to say, hey Matt, it's not gonna work out, you gotta drop it. And I don't know if he decided and made a phone call to Trump, or if Trump made the phone call and said, we need you to write a statement because it's not gonna work. But I'm going to assume this will be for the better, and he'll probably find a better pick who can get confirmed. As far as all the allegations, as far as him maybe doing something illegal or sleeping with underage girls or other stuff like that, I do not believe, and this is just my instinct, if there was something criminal that these people could bust Gaetz for, that that it would just be out in the atmosphere, and he'd still be allowed to be in the Congress for all this time, being a thorn in the side to the Republicans, to McCarthy and to Johnson and to Democrats. Like, I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. And so the DOJ did look into it, which Sonny had to read on The View, by the way, because they were saying all this stuff about him. So that his legal team made them, sent them something. So ABC made her read a legal statement. And she looked so mad and annoyed that she had to do it. But there wasn't any wrongdoing found, or not legal wrongdoing or whatever. I don't know what, there might be some more morally gray stuff in that report or whatnot. But you know, I just don't think there's probably a lot of there as far as something criminal with him still being out and about roaming free. Think about how much the DOJ has weaponized their power, gone after opponents of Trump, allies of Trump. You really think if he was paying or sleeping with underage girls where they could bust him for doing something illegal, that he would still have his seat and not be behind bars? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So a lot of people are upset, like Elon Musk said, you know, what happened to innocent before proven guilty and stuff. You know, Gaetz could have went through the confirmation process and been grilled by Democrats and grilled by Republicans about allegations or things that were made up or said or whatever, and try to clear his name. We could have another like Kavanaugh situation, but it's so early in the Trump administration, and it's, you know, good on him for bowing out. He is correct that it is a really big distraction. It is a really big distraction, but there's some things about Gaetz. I said that I feel like he's a little too chronically online and does things to play up for clicks and whatnot. And sometimes, you know, he's not, he's definitely, you could say it's a good thing that he's not always a team player, but there are times when, you know, he was such a distraction, and I don't really think that was overall good, you know, especially with the speaker fight. And I'm just so not surprised that he didn't have the votes. I'm not surprised. And he has not a long history with like law and stuff. There's just other people Trump could name that would be better as far as taking wins, who will have the MAGA vision, you know, and do reforms in the DOJ, or at least try. So in the long run, I think this will be better. He was a distraction. If he is the one who decided to bow out, that's good on Matt. I don't, I don't know. Maybe if the writing was really on the wall, yeah, he could have just bowed out. I think it's kind of more likely that he was told, but I don't know. We don't know that information unless it's out somewhere, and I just haven't seen that report. But we'll see. I'm sure they'll nominate someone else better. I do want to also mention Linda McMahon was appointed, or nominated, I guess, by Trump to lead the Department of Education. And that's something that people have been talking about. They want to get rid of and tear down and stuff. And people are questioning Linda McMahon because they're reporting Linda McMahon as like, you know, Vance McMahon's wife or ex-wife, or I think I think it's maybe X or whatever. But and they're saying, oh, he appointed some WWE exec. And I find people's criticisms, and I guess it's a theme already that I've gone through. I find the criticisms of Trump's nominees to be so disingenuous, and that bothers me. It bothers me so much. Because if you're going to talk about Linda McMahon and her credentials, why are you talking about her being a WWE exec? Which, first of all, that's no small thing. That's a huge company that's been around a long time, that is very successful. So her business acumen and what they've accomplished should not be downplayed, you know? So, of course, Trump has, relationship with the McMahons and stuff like that. So, um, but they've done something really impressive. They've done something really impressive that's known to a lot of people, millions of people. But even beyond that, she has already served in the Trump administration. So if you're going to talk about her experience, why don't people bring up the fact that she was the head of SBA, Small Business Association? Why not bring that up? Because someone in my TikTok videos today and it was an account that had like no real picture, didn't have any videos posted, very few followers or whatever. No, I like one follower maybe, and like they followed. Maybe it was a, I don't know, bot, or I don't think maybe it was a bot, but I mean, because they're going back and forth quite a bit. But I don't know, paid someone to say some comments or whatever. But so they're like going through different comments and arguing with different folks in my video, and I saw one of their comments was, he just nominated a WWE exec, and I'm like, why don't you mention the fact that she already served in the cabinet and that she was the head of SBA? Did you not know that? Did you not know that? Because that's what I would lead with if I knew that information and was an honest person. And then they tried to say, oh, well, if she was the head of SBA, how come he didn't put her back on that? And she must know that, tariffs are bad. And I'm like, you can feel that way about tariffs. That's fine. But you do know that the Biden administration like kept Trump's tariffs and like made more, right? And they're like, no, well, Trump wants tariffs that are like 50, 60%. That's crazy. Okay? That's crazy talk. And like Biden doesn't have anything that high. The highest they have is 25%. It was easy to find on Google. I mean, 2 freaking seconds. And I'm like, Biden has tariffs on electric vehicles. That's 100%. You can easily find an article from CNN from September about how it was finalized, how Biden administration, the Trump tariffs were increased. And so I'm like, it's 100% on electric vehicles. Semiconductors is, I think, 50% and stuff. So there's a couple things that's high. And the original like executive, I don't know, executive order, but the White House put it out or whatever, that they were going to do it. Like the fact sheet was from May when they originally talked about it, I think. But like when they started implementing or when it was going to go through, it was like September when that came out. So I don't appreciate people being disingenuous. If you don't like tariffs, that's fine. But Canada and other countries put tariffs on other countries to try to create fairness, and they use them. And Trump can't be the only person who's guilty and bad when he uses tariffs, but you're totally fine or at least silent when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris use them. And not just use them, they use Trump's and then increase them. I just don't like the double standards, guys. That's what I just hate it. I just hate it. So tariff thing, silly. Linda McMahon, just referring to her as a WWE exec, silly. She literally already served in the administration. Now, why is she serving under Department of Education rather than going back to SBA? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he knows a lot of people who could do that job well. but maybe he's looking at Linda. I mean, with the different regulations and slashes and stuff that he has Elon and Vivek looking at, maybe he wants someone with Linda's expertise to go in and see where there's administrative waste, and how they can implement some serious changes that we fund students rather than systems in the Department of Education until and then we transition out. I don't know if they can make it super efficient in the way that they want to do it or whatever. I don't know if they're actually going to get rid of it or whatever, but we'll see. We'll see. Because even if they do get rid of it, I think the Democrats could easily just make something else worse in the next administration. So we'll see. But yeah, I did think it was interesting that he picked her for that other rather than SBA, but I'm sure this very competent woman can figure it out. So please don't just refer to her as a WWE exec, though that is impressive enough. But she literally already served through the administration, and guess what? She's been through it. She can get through a confirmation hearing. There's evidence of that. So that's probably a big freaking W in the nomination column, right? Anyway, let's move on. I want to show you guys this video I said that I told you that I would show you guys yesterday. So, Cenk and Alan Lichtman was on Piers Morgan's show, and they got into a heated debate, and it was just a I don't even know if you call it a debate. It was just kind of madness. And it's like, let them fight. But and Cenk, is just yelling at him. He doesn't say anything that's just intellectually superior, but it's just funny. He's saying these like really basic insults, and this professor is getting so triggered, and he says crazy stuff in the midst of him being triggered. And if you haven't seen it, let me not spoil it too much. But it's just funny how they blow up. There is some footage of Alan just totally, so disappointed on election night because his predictions were wrong. Because he just thought she was going to take Pennsylvania and so on. But here we go.
Don't blame the voters. I think, look, we could get into this discussion, but one, I think you're blaming the voters.
First of all, I just want to note that this is one left-leaning panel, man. You got Harry Sisson, who is paid through Palette Media, who gets paid by the DNC, so it is filtered that way. And he says the dumbest, craziest stuff online. He has a huge account on TikTok. It's pretty interesting that, I don't know, Piers is having him on or whatever, but Cenk is from the Young Turks, and next to Cenk is this professor. And then you have Juan Williams on the very far end. Juan Williams, he can say some stuff that makes sense sometimes, but man, Juan said some really out-of-pocket stuff on election night. Like, he was upset and went to the racial blah, 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 blah stuff on, Fox News. And so this is just a crazy panel. Like, obviously it's he wanted a left panel, and this is left. Okay, this is left. But Cenk v. Allen is pretty funny.
I think that's a terrible idea. And look, I debated Professor Lichtman before. I told him his theories about the keys were absurd. I was right. He was wrong. I said he'd lose his keys.
No, you were
couldn't
not
find
right,
him before
and I
the
was
election.
not wrong, and that's a cheap shot, and I won't stand for it.
Well, who won, brother?
You should not be
Who
taking
won?
cheap
Who
shots
won?
at me.
Who
You
won?
want to make your
You
point,
live
make your
in
point.
a total
Don't make it
world of
personal.
denial.
I read your own followers' comments, and they all trashed you, every one of them, and supported me.
Yeah,
so quiet with
right.
your personal
Yeah,
attacks.
come find out again.
Make whatever point you want.
Yeah.
Don't
Look,
make it personal.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything.
You attacked me personally.
You're so deluded.
Oh, right. I've only
Okay.
been a professor for 51 years.
On this program,
published
I've never been
13
able
books.
to finish a
How
thought.
many books have you published? No, because you're personally
Yeah.
attacking me again. Say whatever you want, but I'm not going to
Okay,
stand
but
for
brother,
personal
you got it
attacks.
wrong.
Say
You were
whatever you want.
preposterously and stupidly wrong. So, okay, all right. Can I just
Don't
finish a
call me
goddamn thought
stupid.
ever on this show?
No, not if you're
Okay,
personally
well,
I
you
admit
proved
it.
I'll go on, but I just want to point out that I don't think he called him stupid. He said you stupidly got it wrong. Like you did something that was stupid. Your models were stupid, not you are a stupid person. But the way how angry he is, how controlled he is by his emotions, you know, you can have a lot of knowledge but not be an emotionally intelligent person and stuff. Like this lack of control is pretty ridiculous, which he's exhibited lack of control in other circumstances as well. But and he's also attacked Shank as well. He's like, "How many books have you written?" and stuff. So he's going on the personal attacks too. He's just, whether you call someone stupid or you try to denigrate their experience or whatever because they didn't do what you did. Like all that is still personal, man. It's still personal.
I was wrong. I don't need you to call me stupid.
Okay.
Can I just say,
What
it's
kind of
great to see
nonsense
you
is that?
Democrats
Yeah, I
all
know.
getting
Who
along
taught
so
you
well.
manners?
It's lovely to
You
see
need
taught you
a
manners.
collection
Finish
and
your
harmony as you all
goddamn
come
point.
together
We're
again.
Hey,
just one
Alan,
right now.
shh. Hey, Alan, you deserve a tall glass of shut up juice. So can you just shut up for a second and let someone who knows what
Not
they're
if
doing?
you're
so
gonna
right,
personally
Pierce.
attack
You're
me.
so right.
So-
We're so
Make any
unified right
point
now.
you
Okay.
want.
So,
I will not sit here and stand
so
for personal attacks, for blasphemy against me. You don't need to do that. You don't boost your
blasphemy
ego
against you?
by
Who the hell are
attacking
you?
me
Are you
like that.
Jesus
Just
Christ,
make
you
your points.
loser? Okay, can
Make your
I
points.
just give the correct answer for once?
Yeah, so that was I'm sure that's the kind of content that Pierce Morgan wanted when he made that panel. I just like the stupid juice is so low IQ as far as insults go. I told my sister on TikTok and stuff you can do like different sounds and trends or whatever. And so I think I wanted to cut that part when he said you take a tall glass of stupid juice and him and then Alan saying this is blasphemy against me, and just be like when kids get into an argument at Sunday school. So I don't have time to go into today. I'm gonna do like a separate video and really break down Alan's keys, or at least a summary of his keys, because he I don't know how much his keys are wrong versus he's so biased he can't interpret his own keys. That's why, because people are like, why were you wrong? And he's like, well, there was so much misinformation on X and trying to blame it on other factors. And that's really delusional when you consider how much misinformation comes from the left. So many lies from the left. Like they act like Trump and Elon and all those folks are just like they own the market on that. When Kamala Harris HQ, oh my gosh, first it was Biden HQ, and then it was, they just took it over to Kamala HQ. Just lying time and time after again. Her whole campaign was against 2020 Project 2025, not even like Trump's real agenda. And someone today in my comments was like complaining because of Project 2025, people still mad about that election night video I made, and I said, look, why don't you cite a page number of Project 2025 that you disagree with, and then we can talk about it. Because I if you want to go down that rabbit hole kind of with people, I think that's a good counter to folks, because most people talking about Project 2025 absolutely have not read it. And by the way, I haven't read all of it. I've just read some of it, and I know some of my followers have actually gone through the whole thing and say actually it's actually not that bad. I doubt it's that bad, because Heritage is a pretty good organization. But there's things in there that's being misrepresented. There's things that people are making up about what's actually in there. And there's things that I understand the left wouldn't like, but I certainly would. So if it does say stuff about banning abortion, nationwide, I would be up for that. I would like that. I am not aligned on Donald Trump on his abortion position. I'd be more aligned with Project 2025, So just like cite the page, and you can download it real quick, go to the page and read the policy and be like, this actually sounds pretty good. And that's what I imagine will happen. Or most people probably be like, I don't I don't know what's actually in there. I don't actually have the document. I didn't actually read it. Yeah, a lot of people haven't read it. And I guarantee you that Donald Trump hasn't read it. And Kamala Harris probably didn't read it either. I don't know who read it besides the CNN fact checkers. But I think let me see if I can see a quick summary of his 13 keys. Because it's like if there's a certain amount of keys, then the incumbent I think will win. Key 1, party mandate. After the midterm elections, incumbent party holds more seats in the U.S. House of Representatives than it did after previous midterm elections. So Republicans won the House in the midterms, so they don't have that key. So how many keys do you have to have? I don't remember how many keys you need. I think the way that he probably interpreted his keys were wrong. I'm not saying his keys are right in exact science or whatever. Maybe they're good indicators, but I just don't think that he actually correctly interpreted his own keys because of his own bias getting in the way of things. Like if there's certain parameters for the economy and he's like, oh, well, the economy is pretty good, so Kamala is going to win. And it's like, bro, people don't think the economy is good. They don't have that key. You see what I'm saying? I can't see in the article how many keys that you need. I'll have to do a more in-depth video about this, but key, maybe say it afterwards. Using keys. Trying to see. I don't see them say how many keys that you need in here, but key number 2's contest. There's no serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. There were people who ran. There was a third party or whatever, but we can say that he has that key or whatever, or she had that key. But it's kind of weird too because Kamala's kind of the incumbent, but she's also not the incumbent. Key 3 was the incumbent party candidate is the sitting president. So they lost that key there. Key 4, there is no significant third party or independent campaign. I would say that I don't know if he counted RFK as a serious third party campaign. I mean, he didn't end up, well, he was still on the ballot in some states or whatever, but he was serious enough to garner support, and that support he shifted to Trump. I think that made a difference. So I don't know where he's counting all these keys and where he's landing with all this stuff. Key 5, the economy is not in a recession during the election campaign. They like named or changed the definition of like recessions because they didn't want to admit that we went through a recession during the Biden administration. The economy wasn't good. People still don't feel that it's good, and it's better than where it was, but people are still hurting. So he said key 6 is long-term economy, real per capita economic growth during the term equals or exceeds mean growth during the previous 2 terms. Key 7, the incumbent administration affects major changes in national policy. Yeah, but it was a major in a bad way. Key 8, social unrest. There is no sustained social unrest during the term. See, so with that key, I'm curious, did he say, okay, well, that's a key Kamala has because there's no big social unrest? but there were like the protests on the college campuses, and Jews being afraid for their safety, and people tearing down pictures of hostages and so on. So I don't know what he's considering in weighing with these different keys. Number 9, the incumbent administration is untainted by major scandal. Depends on what you mean by scandal. I mean, Biden, his son, that's a major scandal with the paying off and stuff. Kamala, them hiding Joe Biden's condition is a major scandal, I would say. So again, I don't know if he gave them that key or not. Key 10, foreign/military failure. The incumbent administration suffers no major failure in foreign or military affairs. We know that Biden or Harris doesn't have that key because of Afghanistan, but I don't know if he included that or not. Key 11, foreign/military success. The incumbent administration achieves a major success in foreign or military affairs. I wouldn't say that. Key 12, incumbent charisma. The incumbent party candidate is charismatic or a national hero. She definitely did not have that key. And key 13, challenger charisma. The challenging party candidate is not charismatic or a national hero. Trump has like a ton of charisma, obviously. So his keys might be fine. But he just may be too biased to see it. And you guys saw how he exploded. So I think the bias is pretty valid there. Someone said the keys make it sound like he's using rune stones or reading tea leaves. I mean they're different predictors or whatever. I mean, so there's probably some method to it, I guess. That, I mean, he's successfully been able to predict. I don't think all of them. Maybe he was wrong a time or two, but he was definitely wrong with Kamala, and he didn't want them to switch out Biden with Kamala because he thought that they would lose one of the keys, and but the thing is that people have been gaslighting about the economy for so long. Biden probably destroyed chances of reelection within, the first year or so because they spent so much money. People are trying to say that the tariffs are causing inflation. That's going to cause printing a lot of money and stuff is what caused inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act wasn't about reducing inflation. It was a green policy bill, which Biden was like, we should have called it what it was. They eventually admitted that it was basically a green agenda. The American Rescue Plan was unnecessary. There's already a lot of COVID money that was spent for schools and so on, and money that still wasn't being used yet, but they wanted to get another big bill passed. And it was basically a lot of aid to like different places for whatever they wanted, not really like COVID stuff. So because do you guys remember when Jen Psaki started to say the Democrats were embarrassed about their defund the police position, so they started to shift tactics and say that it's Republicans who were defund the police. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, the American Rescue Plan has money that was allocated to the states, and some states use that money or could use that money for their police, and no Republican voted for it. So they're anti-police. And I kid you not. I kid you not. That was Jen Psaki's reasoning. I reported on it at the time, but of course, obviously that was some years ago. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But it was just absurd, so absurd how they tried to twist that. And I'm like, so it wasn't about COVID? They could just use the money for like whatever they wanted? Yeah. Yeah. So they spent a lot of money on stuff that wasn't really going to fix the economy. They to pat each other on the back, to pay off their friends. And, Schumer could take some money home to New York and so on. And it just really made inflation blow up, and people were not happy. And then there was also supply chain issues, and, people still trying to recover from COVID and all kinds of different stuff. And it just led to life being too expensive. So he wanted to be, a transformative president. He wanted to be reminiscent of like FDR and all this stuff. And he was in his head, and people got in his head or whatever. And they were just spend. But he basically blew up his chance at reelection very early because of those bills that he passed. And these ended up seeing the repercussions of that. And they kept trying to tell people, oh, the economy is great, we've had all these jobs added. And then they had to go back and revise a lot of numbers. And the jobs added just before the election was like 12,000. I'm not joking. Oh, I found it. I found the clip, guys. I found the clip. 1 second. I gotta. This was so stupid. This was so stupid.
Something one of the advisors said this weekend, Cedric Richmond, he said Republicans defunded the police by not supporting the American Rescue Plan. But how is it that is an argument to be made when the president never mentioned needing money for police to stop a crime wave when he was selling the American Rescue Plan?
Well, the president did mention that the American Rescue Plan, the state and local funding, something that was supported by the president, a lot of Democrats who supported and voted for the bill, could help ensure local cops were kept on the beat in communities across the country. As you know, didn't receive a single Republican vote. That funding has been used to keep cops on the beat.
But at the time, that was sold as these local police departments might have a pandemic-related budget shortfall, not we need to keep cops on the beat because there's a crime wave.
I think that any local department would argue that keeping cops on the beat to keep communities safe when they had to, because of budget shortfalls, fire police is something that helped them address crime in their local communities.
In the local communities, the White House's argument was the American Rescue Plan is going to be $1,400 checks. It's going to be vaccines, vaccinators. It's going to put us on the path to beating the virus. Not.
It did those things as well. It was a pretty good bill and piece of legislation.
So they were Republicans became defund the police because they didn't support the American Rescue Plan. First of all, defund means take money away. And some people were saying if there were groups, there were activists that wanted to totally dismantle police. Okay. And that's what the defund was at first anyway. And some people maintain that. But it also, when they were trying to clean it up a bit, they would say it's taking the funds from the police or whatever and reallocating in areas of like, I don't know, social services and stuff. So instead of sending a cop to your house, we can send a counselor when there's a domestic abuse situation. And I don't, just crazy stuff. I don't know if you want to send the psychiatrist when there's someone throwing knives at their wife, but that's the kind of stuff that they were pushing. And Kamala Harris at the time was saying stuff like, there's this idea that we'll be safer if we just put more cops on the street. No, like, so the movement was insane. The movement was insane. And so Democrats did not get a lot of good press after like really pushing that, especially as crime increased and morale was down and police wanted to leave or whatever. So they tried to flip the script and tried to start saying that Republicans were for defunding the police because they didn't support the American Rescue Plan. So this is money that they printed that they didn't want printed and just gone everywhere, go everywhere, because we already printed so much money, right? There's already a bunch of money that wasn't spent. So Republicans didn't want to support it. That's not deciding that you don't want to print money and pass it around everywhere is not the same as actually taking away funds that are already allocated and putting them somewhere else. Those aren't even in the same realm. So It's not like they were taking stuff already out the budget. It was a new thing that they wanted passed. So it was disingenuous and stupid. For those of you who may remember Jen being so much better than Jean-Pierre, she was better. But there was so much bullcrap that came from Jen. So much bullcrap that came from Jen. So, gosh. Just wanted to remind you guys. Before I let you guys go, I want to talk about The View and how I should save that video. Let me go back and find it and save it. And oh, I don't know if I can go back and find it. Nope. Dang. All right. Anyway, I want to show you this Joe Rogan video, or The View mocking. And my sister Katrina is the one who sent this to me, tipped me off about this, but they don't like Rogan, obviously. And Joy decided to come for him and mention the fact that he likes dinosaurs, I get, or believes in dragons or something. And tried to discredit him. Let me see. I thought maybe I bookmarked it. But you cannot you can't beat these comedians. I mean, they're quick on their feet and they'll just laugh at you and just call it a day. So he's already mocked these ladies. And they're mad. Of course, they're still mad that Rogan had such a profound impact on the election. And, he didn't have to. Kamala Harris could have gone on Rogan. Now, she would not have done a good job. She wouldn't have done a good job. I wonder if in the end, what played a bigger role, them being afraid that she would just do terrible and bomb the 3 hours, or was it that the progressives in her team just really didn't want to platform Joe, which is silly because Joe already has a huge platform. He'd be doing her a big favor. So I don't know which one was on their mind the most, but I absolutely don't think that she would have did herself any favors, other than the fact that, she could have at least attempted it and looked a little brave. But here we go.
People want us divided, and they aren't just here in this country. They're foreign adversaries who are infiltrating our social media because it is prudent for us to stay that way. But so when you see something that really pisses you off, you should triple check that one.
Yeah. But I think that's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
we're checked by everybody.
Yeah. I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
Mm-hmm.
That's rich. First of all, ABC does not fact check you broads like that. Y'all are lying every day, saying the dumbest stuff every day. And some things are just opinions. And, like Sunny would go on her rant about racism, sexism, whatever. And they just let that vile spew out through the airwaves, but they're not going to be like, oh, fact check moment. There's no one on the show that just comes on and just like, they act like there's some kind of big buzzer that just starts alarm where it goes red and when they say something that's not true. That's not what happens. The reason why Sunny had to read a legal note is because Matt Gaetz sent them something, or if he didn't send them something, they're probably afraid that they were going to send something and they were going to be sued, and they don't want to be sued, especially by someone who might become the attorney general, at that point in time. So yes, Sunny had to read a note to correct the nonsense that they were saying about him and the allegations surrounding him, and there was no wrongdoing found. And she was not happy to read it, but they are not held to some kind of high standard. They are not. That is laughable. They say untrue things on that show all the time. And the only time it gets talked about and trashed is when people respond on Fox News, or people respond on the Daily Wire, or people like me respond, or people respond in TikToks and other things like that. It's the alternative media that has become the necessary factor in the realm of information, because these low IQ broads with their with their terrible political analysis, they say whatever, they're paid for their dumb opinions, that's fine. You know, ABC, they know what they're getting, they know what they're spewing, somebody's watching it. I'm sure there's a lot of hate watching going on. I don't know who'd want to watch The View to be informed by their nonsense, but they're not journalists, man. They're not journalists. They could hire like serious journalists and analysts or whatever for a show, but they pick these ladies.
Legal. We went from Walter Cronkite basically to this guy Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons. He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like I guess like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
Well, in defense, there are some really good
It's possible that Donald Trump did roam the earth when dinosaurs were here.
There are some really good news.
I'm going to assume, because there's all kinds of videos or whatever about dinosaurs and comparing it to, like, I don't know, different stuff where they think that the little arms or other pieces or whatever could have been like wings or what. I don't think that he thinks that there's dragons like hidden somewhere today or whatever, but there's so much about the world, our old world, that we don't know. So is Joe Rogan believing in dragons sillier than these women believing like Kamala Harris would be a good president? I don't think so. I don't think so. So there's people who believe that babies in your womb aren't actually babies, and that they're not alive until they come out of the womb. Or that a C-section is an abortion, guys. There's all kinds of stupid things that people believe. Joe Rogan, seeing fascinating interpretations of bones. It's not like a dinosaur sprung to life and told you everything that it knew in its past life. It's not like Land Before Time was a documentary. Okay. Anyway, let's go on.
News kind of influencer types. And I think it's great that they're getting information about global and current events in front of younger people who maybe don't tune into traditional media. But to Sarah's point, there has to be some fact checking and actually verification of the things that are shared, because I spend a lot of time on Instagram Reels and I'm served up things that I get outraged about. And then I realize, oh, that's not even true, but I have the sense to go and look it up. But what I do worry about with this, like the Blue Sky versus X, because a lot of people I follow on X, Twitter, have now left to go to Blue Sky. I worry we're all going into our own echo chamber. So we had this, this election that was tense. Donald Trump won, and the right is going to stay on X, and then the left is all going to be on Blue Sky. How do we try to talk to each other?
By the way, I saw someone say that they went on Blue Sky and they've already been banned because they said that men can't become women. So that's the kind of app that Blue Sky is, apparently.
Unfortunately, I will have to say, the other side, I think, has driven people away, because it's not just discourse. It's nasty name calling and coming after your family, and I'm going to do this to you. And I don't think anyone should have to take that from anybody if they don't have to.
So I let the rest of this video play out because the nerve of this comment. Now, she does mention that there's people on the right who get attacked. Fair enough. But I'm sure Whoopi and Sunny is people at Sunny and say things to Sunny all the time on Twitter. But Sunny, it's usually because Sunny has said something stupid, racist, sexist, whatever, trashing Nikki Haley and her, heritage or authenticity about her race. and then is upset when people do the same to Kamala Harris. So there's such insincerity with these people. So yeah, people call them out on Twitter and other places, or X rather. And it's there's definitely always people who go out of pocket, and it's online. People have egg for faces, or they're hidden behind a wall or whatever, of the shield of the internet, and they say crazy stuff. And you have to remember, some of these people you're talking to, some of them are unwell, but some of them are kids. Some of them are kids, man. Some of them are kids not even from the country, engaging or whatever. So you have to kind of weigh your time when you're responding to folks. Not everyone is worth getting into a huge back and forth over. But Whoopi here, not too long ago on air, talked about how there was a bakery who would not give her like a particular cupcake or something like that on her birthday, and said it was because of her political ideology. Made a huge accusation that could have ruined someone's business, and it wasn't even true. They had some kind of boiler issue or something. It's a very old company, very old place, and they didn't want to say, yes, we can fulfill your order, and not be able to do that. They did get it fixed, so people later in the day did get served, but at that particular point of time when she called, they could not help her, and it wasn't because of politics. So Whoopi, your words have power. Your words have power. That was way more powerful than somebody saying something mean to you on X. And you're talking about people's livelihoods, and you accuse them of political discrimination, and then have the nerve to talk about, like, I think people just, they don't want to get bullied, or what. Especially after some of the vile, crazy stuff that comes out of their mouths. Joy just mocked Joe Rogan because of dragons, and then made a crack at Trump about, well, maybe he roamed the earth with dinosaurs. They just did that. Anyway, Joe Rogan responded by changing his profile. I think I have a picture of it. But no sweat off his nose. Yep, he just changed his profile here. Dragon believer. And that's his bio right now. And you know what? It makes more sense than she/her, he/him, z/zer. Think about this. There are people who believe that men can become women, and you're upset because Joe Rogan has questions about dinosaur bones. And I'm like guessing probably what he believed. I don't know what particular clip they're referring to, but he still has his millions of followers. They're going to continue listening to Joe and have interesting conversations. Joe is, he reads a lot, he studies a lot, he has a lot of interesting people on. They talk about all kinds of different things. If you wanted to have an exclusive news podcast or whatever, Joe is not that guy, but he does have people on to talk about politics and stuff. Anyway, someone asked a question of check if Whoopi paid Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't think any of that stuff with Whoopi and Kyle is true. As far as her having to pay or anything. Every time I look that stuff up, it's always not real stories from my understanding. So I don't think that's true. I mean, there was no The View hasn't settled a lawsuit with Kyle Rittenhouse. Like people are saying stuff like that. Claim the talk show. The View settled a lawsuit filed by Kyle Rittenhouse for $22 million and issued a formal apology. AP's assessment false. Kyle Rittenhouse has not sued ABC's The View, nor has any lawsuit been settled for $22 million. His spokesperson told the Associated Press. A spokesperson for ABC also confirmed that the claim is false. The facts, the post circulating widely on social media in recent days, falsely claimed the ABC talk show has settled a lawsuit by Rittenhouse, who was acquitted in November of 2021 of homicide charges after shooting 3 people during a protest in Wisconsin. The View settles with Rittenhouse for $22 million in formal apology. The Twitter user wrote on Wednesday afternoon. The tweet was shared over 9,000 times. Who else is happy? Blah blah blah. So I don't think any of that stuff with Whoopi and The View and Rittenhouse is true at all in the least. But she certainly said some crazy inflammatory things, man. Just beyond Kyle. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run the site and all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. I did drop an article, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, about Kamala Harris and her loss, and it's pretty, thorough with lots of different reasons why she lost, because I'm just baffled that people can't understand it, and I think if people do start to understand it, then they'll feel better about it. They'll be able to cope with it better. But you guys can check that out. Make sure you guys are dropping in your email and stuff, so when there's different emails blast or whatever, that'll go out. Also, check out, of course, different merch that's available on the store. You guys can check out different books that I have available. Like, here's one of my fiction books. This is let me move my finger so you guys can read the title. The Sea Witch, which is a sequel to The Dark Mermaid, which is behind me. That's available on Amazon. There's a link in the description if watching on Facebook and YouTube that'll take you to my Amazon page. But of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available. So go ahead and check that out as well. I have a second edition that is available. So thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys. Tomorrow.